Hello and welcome to another episode of Coffee With. Today we are going to talk with Bianka Rainbow. Bianka is a content creator, holistic healer, detox educator, shamanic practitioner, author, and professional rabbit hole explorer. My favorite. Drawn to wellness from a young age, Bianca began exploring nutrition, fitness, various energy healing modalities, and holistic health in her late teens. What started as curiosity soon evolved into a lifelong passion for understanding the body, mind, and spirit. After being told she would have to live with IBS and chronic symptoms, she spent nearly a decade researching root cause healing, detoxification, nutrition, and the body's remarkable ability to regenerate when given the right support. A search, a personal search for answers eventually became her life's work. Along the way, she not only overcame IBS, she has been told is incurable, but also experienced what many consider her most remarkable story, the disappearance of an ovarian cyst measuring approximately 8 by 5 centimeters. Look it up if you want to know how big that is. This is a documented cyst for years, and she was scheduled for surgical removal. Was. Today, through her online content, books, detox education, and healing work, Bianca combines practical wellness education with intuitive and shamanic healing, helping people explore wellness from a physical, emotional, energetic, and spiritual perspective. Her mission is simple: to help people reconnect with their bodies, trust themselves again, and be a light for those finding their way through the dark seasons. And I barely read that last paragraph without getting a little choked up because I just love it.
Yeah.
So, my friend, it is such a blessing and I'm just so thrilled that we were able to connect today. This is years in the making, and I'm just so excited to talk with you today.
Yes, I'm super excited too, and just thank you for opening up the space to share all of this.
Well, it's such a remarkable experience that, you and I know that we have a lot in common. I was also diagnosed with IBS. I was actually offered antidepressants and nothing else. So
Me
that
too.
became my journey as well. And that's what catapulted me into the wellness space. But the recent situation with Assist just adds a whole new layer to your personal journey and your wellness journey. And hearing about it, I was immediately, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. So thank you for being willing to be vulnerable and talk about the things that a lot of people might feel uncomfortable talking about. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you and start wherever you feel is appropriate to start and share whatever you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah, well, I feel that's like often the way, like we get these diagnoses anyway. Yeah, I'm in Quebec, by the way, everyone. So, um, and we tend to just roll with it, I think we've been taught from a very young age, that when you have a bobo, you go see a doctor, the doctor then gives meds, and you go back home, and then we don't talk about it again. And it's become this thing about like kind of symptom management. So back in 2019, I was 26 years old at the time, and I was non-functional at 26 years old. And I'm not just talking like IBS. Sure, I had like all the digestive issues imaginable, but I was bedridden, like I was non-functional. I wasn't able to take care of myself anymore. Um, so I remember being in and out of hospitals at that point, and oh my gosh, I mean, eventually it took many, many trips there, and I met with a gastro, and without even doing any testing, like no colonoscopy, nothing. He says, "Well, you have IBS." Stress doesn't help. It's not what causes it, but you'll have to, we're going to give you antidepressants and you'll learn to live with it. So I leave the office and I'm like, what? Like I'm 26 years old. I was healthy before this. And now you're telling me I'm going to live my whole life like this. So needless to say, the antidepressant paper was never brought to the pharmacy. And the research started. So the process of becoming my own doctor started then. So I went through so much trial and error because there's so much information out there. It's very overwhelming. As much as like, I mean, it's great. We have access to internet in our like very own pockets now, and it's great. But I mean, at this point, it's almost like a dead land because there's too much info and you don't know what to do with it. So it was a lot of work. It was like on average, 7 hours a day researching because it's all I could do. I was non-functional. So that's all I was doing was researching all day. And eventually one thing led to the other. I ended up falling on different things that really gave me the results that I was looking for. And it was fast. I'm part of the lucky ones. Not everyone gets as fast results as me, but it took me about 3 months to kind of reverse everything.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, and then I mean the journey just kept on giving. So I've been doing all the things for about 4 to 5 years now. IBS
Can you
was the
touch,
first to go. Yeah.
can you touch just a little bit on what some of those things are?
So I find when you break it all down, like all the research I done brought me to toxicity. And I mean, toxicity is many things. So think like heavy metals, mercury is a huge one. And when you talk about this stuff, and especially in Quebec, I don't know why people are not aware here. Like, and you talk about these things, mercury that's in fish, that's in your these amalgam, yeah, your teeth. I mean, and that's just mercury. So you have aluminum, cadmium, cesium, strontium. Then you have parasites, and yes, parasites exist, guys, and you can be exposed like through I mean, pinworms are one of the most like prevalent parasites worldwide, and people just don't talk about itchy bums. Like, we need to talk about this stuff. It exists, and full of types of parasites. And then you have the mold, exposure to mold, which is like, there's like, it's not regulated. So people, and it's not just about like allergies, itchy eyes, or the lungs. It's like, it goes deep, like mold,
Mhm.
mycotoxins proliferate in the body. And then oftentimes, when you have one, you have the others. So they're like all intertwined. So you need to address it all at once. And that's what I did. So I started, so you have your binders that are, that will latch onto mycotoxins, plastic residues, pesticides, heavy metals, all that stuff. You need to clean out your body. And it's amazing what the body was designed to heal. It's one of its main functions. It's constantly looking for homeostasis. The goal is to remove what's interfering with that process. And unfortunately, we came into a world that is toxic. And it's really not fear. It is what it is. You were exposed since you're in your mom's belly, and you were
Mhm.
exposed every day after that. It's in the air, the water, the food, you name it, cosmetics, products to clean, it's everywhere. So you need
Medication.
a medication, the pill, being on the pill for so many years, that got to me. But yeah, it's like it's everywhere. So what I did was addressing that. The products I used were kind of to get all of that out of my body and then regenerating. So things like collagen, colostrum, amino acids, you name it, like rebuilding your body afterwards. Um, there's a lot to do also with cell signaling.
Yes.
So, yeah, so your cells communicate. I'm saying, like, I'm going to keep it really basic. Your cells communicate, and oftentimes toxins will like cut off that communication. So your goal is to get it back online. So that's another huge component too. So if your cells are able to communicate, they're able to do the job that they were intended to do, which is huge. Like, just getting that part down will get you to have like
Change
amazing
things quickly.
results.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I did. Um yeah.
Wonderful. And what about fasting? Was that part of your journey at that time?
Fasting was the first thing I did.
Okay.
Fasting was so when I was in the hospital back in 2019, I wasn't able to eat anymore.
Okay.
And I come from, so mom is a faster. She's been
Okay.
fasting since she's 18, and her father was a faster too. So it's in my lineage. And at that point, I had tried a couple small fasts, like 2 days, 3 days, nothing more serious than that, or more, I'll say more long term.
Hmm.
Um, but I wasn't able to eat. So I said, well, I'm just going to listen to my body and I'm just not going to eat anymore. So I did my first long extended water fast. So it was 10 days and it helped. It really helped calm the inflammation. When I got out of it, I was able to start eating again. And it was the first step. It was the first thing I've ever done. And it stuck with me. I started becoming, so I've been fasting now for 10 years. It's my 10th year now. And
Wow.
I do a couple every year. It just has a way, like if you don't know about fasting, it, it's really worth looking into. I have a book that it's like a fasting guide. If you don't know how to fast, it doesn't go into like all the science, so it's not like super hard to understand. The book is not about that. So if that's your jam, that's not what I wrote. Mine is really more about a guide. So when you're fasting, you want to prepare your fast. You want to refeed in a certain way because if there's something called refeeding syndrome that will land you in the hospital if you don't
Yeah.
do it like you're supposed to. So there's all these, the fears, all this, what to expect during a fast. There's stages, so there's symptoms that you can expect. Fasting isn't necessarily all sunshine and butterflies. It can be a hard process, but it's a huge tool that I use and that I have been using, and I keep it in my practice. I try and do 4 every year. If you
Wow.
have not experienced fasting, if anyone has not experienced it, I would wish that you're able to experience one at least once in your life. And there are certain medical like I mean there's certain things like I mean high blood pressure or stuff like that we don't suggest fasting, so always like consult with a doctor before, just make sure that you're good to fast. But I would wish everyone could at least once. It's an amazing tool.
It's something that I just naturally did my whole life was not necessarily fast, but it was intermittent fasting. So the food window was very short and the fasting period was very long. But I've noticed since menopause, things have changed. Have you do you know anything about that, or have you read anything about before menopause and after menopause, how things can change and fasting might not be great for us old ladies?
It's so interesting you say that. You're not the first person to mention it. I think there's so many things that come into play with fasting, and I'm self-taught, right? I
Yes,
have not followed a fasting course, and I exposed all my life and researched it, but I you're not the first person that says that. But I think it's many factors. I don't know if it's necessarily, could it be like the hormones that I think there's like many factors that could really play, because I see people who are like they're menopause and they're great doing the fasting. And there's like fasting for women, like the optimal fasting for women. And a lot of schools of thought will say that women aren't supposed to do long extended fasts, or they're not supposed to fast during their period, which some women do fast on their periods, and it makes it like so easy. They have no cramps, and it's like the most pleasant period they've ever had. For me, that doesn't work. So I think it's like everyone is different, and
I
it's
agree.
really, yeah, I think it's really like, and I mean, we're a lot of what's happening in like I feel healing realms and holistic and going natural and following these routes. That's what I feel is, and it's like the main message I always have is you got to tune into yourself. I feel it's unique. Everyone has I mean, there's science goes like so far, and then there's
Hmm.
all the other stuff. And I think
Yes.
that, yeah, and when if the two merge someday, it'll be like we're gonna have advancements in like in the healing realm like we've never known before. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't have like a definite answer
Oh, and that's
on
fine.
that.
I think you're
Mm.
spot on. Just like there is no one medication that works for every single person, there is
Right.
no one healing modality that works for every single person. I think it's smart, like you said, to know your diagnoses, to know what you've got on board already at the time. And if you are going to do a fast, of course you're not going to jump into a 10-day. You're
Yeah.
going to go really slowly, see how it works for your individual body, and go from there. There is no hard and fast rule about anything when it comes to bodies. We can talk all day long about the products that we love, but that does
Mhm.
not mean they're unilaterally perfect for every single body in this world.
Yeah. And it's the most interesting thing. Like, okay, so what I'm seeing and healing, so there's this whole other part that came up. Like this is we're talking about the physical, but there's the whole other component that like has led me to like shamanism and all those other realms. And there's an example that's coming up. Like, so I'm very big in like the parasite realm.
Okay.
Um, I'm guessing it's probably the IBS and digestive issues that brought me to that. Not to get into detail, but a lot of stuff was expulsed from my body. So obviously, I looked into it and there's this part during my healing journey that the thought came up where so you see people online using all these antiparasitics, right? So then there's the Ivor, there's the
Yep.
Fenben, and there's the pharmaceutical realm, and then there's all the natural stuff, black walnut hull, cat's claw, you name it. There's all of that. But then people are getting very different results depending on what they take. Some people have success with a variety of things. And
Right.
then one could argue, yeah, but it depends what type of parasite you have. Fine, but I'm going to bring another layer. I
Yeah.
think it really depends on how much you're willing to surpass yourself. So I was passing rope worms at one point in my journey. Ivor is not supposed to make you pass these rope worms. I was passing them, and I had taken Ivor that time because we came down with what we thought was I'm not
Okay.
going to say it,
Yep.
but the yeah 2020
The
we thought
thing.
we came yeah the thing we had came down with it. We didn't test, but it felt like that, and I was like, well, we have Ivor, so why don't we, try it and, it might help because people were getting a lot of relief from that. So I remember mom tried it. I was like her caretaker during that. She needed a lot of help. And then so I ended up coming down with it. I have a fear. So it's called emetophobia. I'm scared of vomiting. Anything that surrounds that, I'm terrified, always have been. So things have to be very safe and very gentle and very like all these protocols. So Ivor, like I've never taken it. I'm so scared that I'm going to be sick on it. But at this
Yep.
point, I'm feeling so terrible. I have nothing to lose, and I'm like, I'm jumping in. I put
Okay.
a couple drops in a glass of water and I sipped it very slowly. 2, 3 days later, I passed these rope worms. So I start digging, and the research continues, and I'm finding the only info I'm finding is no, Ivor does not make you pass rope worms. And I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting. Why would it do that for me? But then, so I keep that on the side, like that story, and I end up seeing so many people in the parasite groups online and all this experiencing similar um things, but kind of like you surpass yourself, you go past that fear and you get results and you end up purging these parasites. And I was like, this is so but in very different ways. So for me, it was like, well, emetophobia and trying like doing a step in the direction of passing over that fear kind of brought me to release these things. Someone else might I don't remember all the stories, but might go back and see their father with who they did not have a relationship for 20 years and, be the bigger person and go towards that relationship. And then, like, the night of, they end up having these huge cramps and then they had a huge parasitic release the next morning, And and I'm getting shivers as I'm saying this. It's like this thing about, I don't think we're just dealing with the physical. I think a lot of it, and that's just the parasite realm, but I think healing happens on much deeper levels than we I think we're just starting to comprehend a bit of how it works. So it comes back to saying it's so unique for everyone. We can talk about products all day. We can, I can mention what I took and it worked for me. Doesn't mean that, I mean, you have your own story.
I do. I mean, but I think we both arrived at the same place that it isn't just the physical body, that
Mm,
it's, the spiritual or the energetic body, the mental body, the emotional body, the the fact that we are energy, that everything is energy. Parasites are energy. Candida is energy. Trees are energy. Herbs are energy. Everything is energy. So if we can kind of warm up to the idea that there is an energetic component to how we feel in every way. Fear is an energy, love is an energy, joy is an energy. Um, the bacteria in our microbiome is an energy. And I always go back to synergy.
Mm.
If that's it, kind of like you said before with the cellular communication,
Yeah.
if that communication is not synergistic with the energetic body, the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, whatever you want to call it, however you want to label it, if that synergy is not on board and all of the wheels on the bus are not turning, if all of these things that make us who we are as humans are out of sync, of course we're not going to feel right. But I think the mistake that a lot of us make, me included in the beginning, was just addressing the physical body,
Mhm.
completely having no concept whatsoever of all of the trauma that I went through that sparked the problems in the first place. And then this happened, and then this happened, and then I got food poisoning, and then everything changed for my entire life. And it took, in my opinion, it took far too long for me to understand trauma was interwoven in that.
Yeah.
All of the experiences that were really difficult for me were interwoven in that. All of the Little Debbies and the Mountain Dew that I drank were interwoven in that. Living off of Chips Ahoy was all intertwined in all of the things that became me.
Yeah.
So while I don't want to overwhelm people and suggest that healing is really complex and you have to climb to Everest to ever find healing, what I'm trying to suggest and piggyback onto what you said is it's so much bigger than we realize.
Yeah.
And when we can start to bring some of those pieces together outside of the physical,
Mm.
now we're cooking with all four burners, right?
Yeah. And I think that's you really like you really put the right words to it. It's what was it? It was your healing process is a spiritual one disguised as a physical process. And that's like and I find they often mirror like each
Yes.
other. So like if you were and I've seen people do both. Like I see people working on the physical, and if you do that long enough, it ends up like becoming this, your whole life will change. Like you were saying, like the chip ahoy cookies will go because it does not match anymore where you're up to, and it mirrors on like this, the spiritual or the emotional, or it mirrors on that aspect, and your whole life is going to change. It's not so much about the fine, like you don't have any digestive issues anymore, but the digestive system is connected to all this other side that is not seen with the eyes. So you'll see changes in your life and the people that surround you in your job and your this and your that. It has an impact. And I've seen people do the contrary too. I've seen people in my practice that address all the emotional stuff, the relationship stuff that's not going well, and they will have huge success like in the parasite purging realm.
Yeah,
They purge parasites just by addressing like the emotional stuff. For me it
thousand
wasn't
percent.
that. For me it had to be the physical. I'm a very physical being, so it obviously was going to start that way, but they both mirror each other, and they end up, you end up integrating like both parts, whether you start with the physical or the non-physical. That's how that, anyway, that's why I feel and what I've observed. Yeah.
Well, I think both are true. I was kind of on the other side of that. I was addressing all of the physical stuff, and I wasn't getting where I wanted to be. And that's when I had to go beyond the physical and be like, okay, I'm doing everything right, and nothing's working. How many times have you heard that? A
Yeah.
bazillion. In all of the years that I've been, working with people, I've heard it a bazillion times. It's not true. I love y'all, but it's not true. We are not doing everything right. And that is why things are falling off. We have to broaden our scope. And, again, if all of your focus is on the physical and you're not getting the results that you want to see, we have to turn to the emotional. What's driving the bus? Because here's where I'm going to start talking about computers and how technically we're kind of unique little machines. If you think about a computer and a hard drive and a soft drive or software, the hard drive holds the programs, right? And the software executes what jobs you want to perform. If the computer was designed on how our brains work, we can understand that we have all kinds of programs in our unconscious mind, in our subconscious mind, and in our conscious mind. And most of us are only, if we're lucky, we're only aware of what happens in the conscious mind. It's in the subconscious and the unconscious that's actually running the show. So if you've got programs in the background running, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm a failure, all of these things, and then you can see how that plays out in your relationships, in your job performance, in your daily life, and in the physical body. So if you're hitting a roadblock in any way, shape, or form, pivot. That's what roadblocks are for. They're the opportunity to pivot into a different direction and address needs that are there. You just didn't know that they were there and how to address them and how to get more synergy into your life by like you said before, stretching beyond yourself, or is it? Because yourself
Yeah.
is so much bigger than you think, stretching beyond this lane and changing lanes and see what that other avenue might need from you, what other avenue might need healing, so that synergy can really start to swirl and you can really start to see the outcomes that you want to see in your life.
I love your computer and the software thing. I love that. And it's that, and we were talking about this, like it's the awareness too. And I think there's just there's nobody that's going to show you how to become aware of your processes. There's not one guru online. There's no one. There's if someone comes to you and tells you that they will show you how to do this
Yeah.
and they have the exact formula, then run the other direction because nobody can teach you that. You have to discover that for yourself. Anyone who's walked this weird, funky human consciousness path will tell you this. But it's the awareness. And once you tap into this, like, okay, so there's and we can like mirror it on the physiological like aspect. So if something happens that triggers you, you have to first see that there's a trigger, like an emotional trigger, a response that happens there automatically. And oftentimes that comes with, like, did you say it was software, like from the programmings that we had when we were growing up, and this and what we've been fed, and it just happens automatically. And what do you know? You're getting mad at a box of Kleenex, or you're you're screaming at someone, and you're like, oh, well, I had no control over this. It just happened like on its own. So and it's like a muscle and you can practice it. So when there's a trigger, you got to see it. And then eventually, and you got to practice it. There's no way around it. And eventually, once you start seeing that, oh, I was about to be triggered, well, then there's like this physiological cascade that happens in the body. The cortisol, starts flowing and all that. And then you get like upset. But if you're able to catch yourself right before this like cascade of like human juices starts being produced in the body, well, you can stop them from happening. And then you can have like this new awareness where like, oh, this is happening, and usually I would get a mad, but I'm not going to take the mad this time. I can do, and then the possibilities are endless. And then I used to try and explain this to mom. Well, when you see it coming up, do anything else,
Yes.
anything to rewire your brain. Do like 5 jumping jacks, or like do this, like this, whatever you need to like rewire and create new pathways like in your brain, just to experience something completely different. And it doesn't mean it's always going to stay like that's not always going to be the thing that you're going to do, but it's just opening like new pathways, kind of. Yeah.
Well, the first step is to interrupt the pattern, right? That's exactly what you're describing is interrupt that pattern. And
Yeah.
then, because interrupting that pattern is everything. So now, like you said, as soon as you interrupt that pattern with the whatever, get up out of your chair, walk around the room, whatever, now you can rewrite your story. You get to rewrite your story every single time you have an encounter or a reaction. It's self-responsibility is the ultimate in the ability to respond, not react. The
Yeah.
reaction is the automatic, right? The awareness allows us to respond, not react. And I think
Yeah.
that's everything.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then it brings me to like the emotions. It's not to say like, because there's this whole new thing that I'm gonna say it's such a hard time with like the toxic positivity that I'm
Yeah.
seeing like in the communities, like love and light only. And it's just like, no, man, you are running away from your expansion. Like, stay there and address it. I mean, there's a thin line and we're all different. So, but emotions and all these, like, I'm not saying don't live them, I think is the message. Like,
Don't
emotion.
bypass your feelings. They're part of who you are.
Exactly. You can't bypass them forever. And there's no way, like, you're never going to get to the other side if you don't go through it. And it's not easy. It's not necessarily a super fun process. And there's a lot of dark there, and there's a lot of traumas there in all those emotions. And this is, we were talking about this. Emotions are such a gift. Like, so what if you're crying alone in your bed at 2 a.m. and you're letting it all out? That feels good, man. It's a release. It feels
Yes.
amazing and it makes the human experience so, so rich. The chair I'm sitting on doesn't get that chance. I can feel it all. I can feel the joy. I can feel, and those are great. But the sadness and the madness are great too, and they're great catalysts to healing. Like, there's something there. Don't numb it. Don't buy something to fill like that little hole inside. Sit with it and sit with the emotion. But then, and that's what you were saying. Like, there's like the reaction, acting out of that emotion and letting the emotion kind of take over, and then lashing out at someone, or like the like, you want the right before where you can like sit with the emotion and it's like, oh, I have a sad and I'm gonna live the sad. And eventually it passes and that's fine, you know?
I love how you say, you said earlier, I have a mad, I have a sad. I love
Yeah.
that because here's what it does. It takes us out of the fear and into the observer role. Oh, I
Mhm.
have a sad right now. So now you're the observer of your sadness. You don't have to relive the trauma. You don't have to relive the sadness because here's the thing. The nervous system doesn't know time. That thing that made you sad is still right here in your face, and you keep trying to look away from it. It's right here.
Mhm.
Observe it from a third party perspective. Observe, I have this sad, and I'm going to feel it because you know what's on the other side of this? Freedom. I can
Yeah.
sit here in the fear and I can keep trying to, avoid it and go around it,
Mhm.
or I can set my fear aside and I love the word that you said, catalyst for change. On the
Mhm.
other side of fear is freedom.
Yeah.
And again, I'm going to say what you said. It's not easy, but what I have noticed in every single time that I have feels that I don't really want to feel, if I just sit down and deal with the feels, it's over.
Yeah.
Perpetuating it is the
Yeah.
nightmare. Ignoring it is the nightmare. Bypassing it is the nightmare because it just prolongs this whole thing
Yeah.
so much more intense than it has to be. If you're willing to just sit with it, it can literally be like 2 minutes, five
Yeah.
minutes, 7 minutes. And on the other side of that, you feel like you lost 3,000 pounds.
Yes. Yes. And I find it gets like, I don't know for you. It gets, I think I'm thinking of like my relationship that I'm in right now, where I've when I started this relationship, I was in a place of like, I didn't know how. I didn't know how to express many things and how to sit with emotion. And it was like a huge process that we went through. But eventually it got so much easier. And it, like you're saying, like it doesn't last as long as it usually does. Because now I know myself. Now I know, like, if I have this little thing that I feel inside, it's like, I'm going to take a moment. I'm going in nature, or I do the things that I know kind of allow me to play with those triggers, but also soothes me and gets me into like this kind of more, I don't know if rational is the right word, but a more grounded like state where I'm able to make sense of how I'm feeling instead of it being like not over, not. I'm able to like undo them, and it gets, but you get like good at undoing knots, like
Yes.
those. Yeah, you get good at it,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
doesn't take
But,
as much of your time.
and how many people hop on a bike and just ride it down the road? It takes practice. Like anything else in life that is worthwhile, it takes practice. And you might fall down a few times and you might skin your knees a few times, but you're going to get good at it, just like everything else that you have practiced in your life. You have practiced for years how to shut down those emotions. So it's going to take some practice opening that door again and allowing yourself to feel again. And it is so worth it.
So worth it. So worth
So
it.
worth it.
And
So tell me
it's
about your cyst and the diagnosis and any emotions and exploring that might have gone into the whole experience of I have this pain, I have this label now, and then what?
yeah, I think I'm gonna okay, so the cyst was first caught on ultrasound in 2019.
Okay.
But my family doctor being who she is, no follow-ups were done. So last November, so we're at the end of June 2026. In November 2025, I started having pain right after a fast, actually. Started having pain in my lower tummy on the left. And it just kept ramping up and ramping up. And I was like, okay, we got to get this checked. So in and out of hospitals again we go. So the diagnostic that we first got, well, like in 2019, they thought it was a hydrosalpinx, which is like a blocked fallopian tube.
Okay.
So then they brought this back up with the new testing that we were doing. Um, anyways, and I want to keep the physical part of it shorter, so I want to dive into the other stuff, but basically it ended up becoming so a cyst and a very big one, so a 5 by 8 centimeter cyst. It became an urgent operation, and here in Quebec that means 3 months.
Oh,
So I was scheduled, yeah, yeah, long waiting times.
wow.
Yeah, so I was waiting for that, and but if so there's yeah there's both parts of that, but as soon as the hydrosalpinx diagnostic happened in January, I upped all the protocols, so everything I was doing I upped it, and I started doing other things too. I have like a full cyst protocol landing page that I could
Oh,
send,
great.
maybe. Yeah, I put everything there, so that's like the physical part of it, so I upped all of that. Then at some point I go back into the hospital. I had just gotten an MRI 2 weeks prior, confirmed the cyst. It was still there. Everything was fine, but I was having more pain. And we were thinking that there was like a infection going on also in there. So I was getting antibiotics in the meantime. It was like letting go of what I thought things should
Yeah.
be and diving into big pharma stuff, you know? So I go back, I'm like, there's still infection, I'm gonna need antibiotics. And finally they're like, well, last time you were in, there was no infection. We got the
Mm.
results and there was none. And I was like, well, what is going on? And the doctor's like, I'll be really honest with you, I'm kind of lost. So she says, I'm going to
Mm.
send you for another ultrasound because I want to make sure there's no abscess or like that there's nothing that changed on the cyst. She sends me, and the same lady that had done my ultrasound, like I think a month earlier, she walks in and she's like, oh my gosh, I remember you. Like you had this really big cyst. And she's like, okay, come on over. And she starts looking. She did the test 4 or 5 times. And she's like, I cannot for the life of me find your cyst. Your cyst is gone. So she calls in the chief of department to come and do like, and this time a transvaginal. They want to confirm. And she's like, nope, your cyst is gone. Congratulations. Must be such a relief. So I'm like, I'm walking out, and I turn around at the desk and I'm like, what do I like? What's the next step? What am I, do I just leave? And they're all there like, well, you got to go back to the emergency room. They're going to follow up, but yeah, you're good. So the cyst completely dissolved within 2 weeks. Like I had an MRI 2 weeks before that, it dissolved. And the big thing with them was as she's doing the ultrasound, she says, did you get like a huge intense pain at some point? I'm like, no, none of that happened. She's like, well, usually women with a cyst this size, and it would be a rupture because it was 2 weeks. it didn't dissolve. They end up in the ER like they come by ambulance or like
Yeah.
someone needs like they're not able to walk. Like this is like we don't understand. And she says we would at least expect to see some residual liquid within 2 weeks, like with that size, but there's nothing left. There's no sign of it.
Wow.
So it was just, yeah. So it was like, well, congrats, and you can go back home. So then it took me time to like take it all in. This is huge. Like
Yeah.
I had given up. I was like, yeah, sure, just open me up and take it out. I can't take this pain anymore. And I had like let go, I think was um
You
the
surrendered.
big yeah, it was a big surrendering moment. Um so we discovered this in January, the hospitals, all that. And I don't think I talked about this at all. So in December, I have this one friend with who we followed classes online and we do shamanic sessions together online. And we did two of these in December. And the message that kept coming through, and this ended up being like a big collective message. A lot of people went through this in the beginning of January, which coincided with the end of the year of the snake, I was told. So it was like really in tune. I was like, oh yeah, it was in tune, kind of. It was letting go of how you think things should be. And a lot of people who had like control issues or like aspects in their life were being brought to surrender like to that control completely. And I was seeing it all over the place, and I was going to be one of those, but I didn't know it at the time. But it was the message that was coming through like in those sessions, and I was like, okay, cool, we'll note that, but whatever. So it really ended up being that it was jumping into the abyss and saying, yeah, well, we'll need to operate, and yeah, you'll need to take antibiotics. I took the pill again, which I had quit in 2017. I took that for a month. So it was like big surrenders, a very, yeah. And it's funny because oftentimes when you surrender, it flips and it's like, well, you won't need it anymore. You won't need to get operated. Good job. Good job. Woohoo. You got the lesson, we moving on. Yeah, so that was crazy, but and then so it took me time to like take that all in and I relished in it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing. No more cysts." And I was taking it all in and then there was the whole other side of the cyst that made sense. So his name is Frankel. Frankel didn't need to get evicted. He left on his own, which is crazy. Oh my gosh. Anyways, so Frankel had been there since 2019. In a nutshell, my story was around 11, 12, 13 years old, I lost my mom and my dad's love. That was my perception at that age. I didn't lose it for real. That was my perception, how I viewed it. And at the time, the way I went about finding love was becoming hypersexualized. So a very well, just like a young, very hypersexualized teen that used sexuality to feel love and to feel seen and to feel anyways, and it was like a 13-year cycle of shitty relationships. Like it was, I was putting that out. So imagine what I was getting back in. It
Sure.
was all that.
Energetically.
I was an object, but that's what I was putting out. So obviously that's the response I got. And the last relationship I think I left, the healing started happening shortly after that. So in 2017. And the cyst was caught in 2019. So it may have been there a bit before. And the realization was so for me, left side of the body is always the past and the right side is future. So past and then ovary really had to do with like sexual organs and all that. So it's as the realization in my practice in my like shamanic journeys that I did was realizing that Frankel took all of the times that I didn't say no and that I didn't respect myself and that I, let people step all over me and use me as an object and all this. All the times I didn't respect myself as the freaking divine human being that I am. Frankel took it on and he grew, man. And he grew and he took it. He took all the stuff that I just didn't process. So when all of this went full circle, and now I'm with this amazing partner. Like we explore sacred sexuality and like things that I never would have thought I would have explored. It would make sense that Frankel ended up going away. And I remember Simon and me talking. He says, "Well, I think when you're going to get operated and you're going to remove him, I think there's going to be a lot of your traumas that will probably end up resolving also, because there's still stuff that's resolving along the way. It's a process." And come to find that he ends up going on his own, and I don't need the operation. So it makes a lot of sense. There was a lot of work that was done. And I mean, this was 13 years in the
Yeah,
making of like
yeah.
forgetting myself.
Oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I thank you very much for all of that. I know a lot of people don't find it easy to talk about these things. I personally, I'll tell you anything about anything, but I want to honor that you went through a lot, and as did I. I call it looking for love in all the wrong places. There's a really old song that my dad used to listen to, and that was the song. And I did the same thing because I felt completely lost in this world. And I just wanted to replace the love that I felt that I lost as well. So I did the same thing. I went looking for love in all of the wrong places. And what's really interesting, I didn't even realize this until we were talking. I have had sacral issues this whole year. I've been to the chiropractor so many times. And, we can call it sciatica, we can call it, my hips are rotated, we can call it whatever you want to call it. But my sacrum is speaking. And I'm sitting here listening to you going, okay, now I have my label and now I have something
hmm
that I can work with. And I
hmm
think that's what's really cool about diagnostics or imaging or anything like that. It gives us, if we use it right, it gives us
yeah,
the opportunity to say, oh, that's what I'm working with. Okay, now I have something to work with. I personally don't attach to diagnoses, and I encourage other people not to as well. Excuse me, I feel like the minute that we own something, it becomes ours.
yeah,
And I like that you kind of separated yourself from the cyst. You kind of gave it a name and it's got its own personality unto
yeah,
itself. It's not yours.
yeah,
But on the flip side of that, you talk about things being mirrored all the time. Our programs and our patterns and our behaviors and our thoughts can take physical form inside of our bodies. And that
yeah,
can look like a cyst or a tumor or, everything that we can experience can get locked in our fascia. A lot of people have tightness and arthritis and restriction, and there isn't a lot of movement there. The fascia literally just gets locked up with all of these different forms of toxicity. You said before that umbrella of toxicity is really big and really wide, and a
mm,
lot of things can fall under it. I also think emotions and patterns and thoughts and behaviors can fall under that toxicity umbrella
mm,
and can get inside of those cysts and the tumors and the. So I think it's brilliant that Frankel just said, "You're done, girl.
mm,
You have healed this. I can go now." Because you didn't need to store that in your body anymore. You
yeah,
surrendered. And I think more than anything, I don't want to tell people what to take away from this conversation, but I really do feel like that's the takeaway is you collected this data literally inside of your body. You surrendered. You were ready to release it and it was gone.
yeah.
No surgery required.
Yeah.
It's utterly fascinating to me what the body can do.
That it's worth mentioning. There's like it was really weird because as I was going through this, I have like a very rigorous morning like routine where I do movement and I do like a mix of weird like qigong and yoga. It's like my weird thing that I picked up since I'm 18 and I built around it. And I do this thing right at the end where you call it shamanism. It's more like this weird little thing that I like to do with my imaginary friends. My boyfriend finds it funny. He says, you're going to play with your imaginary friends, all helping guides, spirits, ancestors, interdimensional beings, and elementals, and blah, blah, blah. And then I start. And then I was doing a session with them, and every morning, and I was going to see the cyst, and I was seeing it dissolve. Or it would like kind of, it looked like this, and it would like a grape, and then it dries up like a raisin and poop falls off like a little leaf, like any way that I could play with my imagination to see it go away. And someone online told me this at some point. He says, I'm just saying this, but he says, I can totally see you like remove this, with like, you know, um, your imagination, or how do you say, or visualization. He used the term visual. He says, I could see you do that. I'm like, it's funny you say that because I've been working on it for some time. And I think there's a lot of work that can be done there. And I think the fun thing is that this is free and it's accessible to everyone. And,
Everyone.
and everyone can use their imagination. And I think it's not for nothing that that since we're very young, that we've been trying to sever like that connection to our imagination, because imagination is so freaking powerful, and it's this little tool that you can just keep in your back pocket and you can use it whenever you need it. And you would find it crazy the things for which I just reach in the back pocket and I'm like, okay, this or that, and I just sit with it and I see it in my mind and I let it go down.
I'm really
There's a
glad that you
lot.
brought that up. I didn't want to
Yeah.
feed you with that and ask you if you used any, I would call it shaman work because I don't really know how else to really describe it. But if you know anything about science of mind, that is literally it. You use your mind to heal. It isn't imagination. It's proven. Use
Wasn't it
your mind.
athletes?
What?
Isn't it athletes? Isn't it athletes that like they do that? Like they're like their coaches will have them like downhill skiers, like they visualize it before they actually do it. Like there's an actual science to it. Like it's a real thing. Like, yeah.
It is the ultimate manifestation. You are using your mind, just
Mm,
like we were talking about before, riding a bike or practicing how to start to feel emotions again. It's learning how to use your mind to create the things that you want. And
mm.
I actually did this when I was pregnant and I was terrified of giving birth.
Oh, wow.
I found a book. His name was Dr. Bradley. I don't even think he's alive anymore because this is really old, but he had something called the Bradley method. And it wasn't just about babies, it was about women visualizing, creating the space that they wanted to create in whatever room that they were deciding to deliver in, creating the space, creating the environment that they wanted to bring this child into the world into, but
Mm,
also creating within your body the natural flow of the birthing process. Lamaze will
mm.
teach you to breathe in a certain way that actually inhibits the deep interconnection and the deep inner flow that is natural
Oh, yeah.
to the
Wow.
birthing process. They kind of have you breathe out of the pain. Go figure, allopathic medicine. And he teaches you to breathe into the pain, to release the pain. And it changed everything for me. And that one moment in time showed me how, kind of like you said, you saw this cyst shrinking and shrinking and just dissipating. I saw the cervix getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. And kind of like an inner tube that's all blown up. It can
Yeah.
be really fat and the center can be kind of small. When it's flat, it's paper thin and it's wide. And I used all kinds of visualization, preparing that last 4 weeks, preparing for the birthing process. I determined that there was going to be no pain. I determined that I was not going to need an epidural. I determined that the room was going to be quiet and dark. I mean, it was during the day. So I made them turn the lights off. I played dolphin music, water music. I don't want to make this about me. I just want to reiterate that We are so much more powerful than we understand and that we realize. There's a lot of programming that goes on in this world to make sure that we don't have any idea how powerful our minds are and how powerful our ability to create really is.
Yeah.
You created that cyst to go away. You
Hmm.
created the cyst. You didn't know that you did, but your body created the cyst for a reason. It had a purpose and it served its role really well. But when you understood it and at the time that was right for you in your life, in your journey, you created its departure
Yeah.
intentionally. You asked it to go. You asked it to shrink. You told it to shrink. You told it to go. And
Yeah.
we have that power, every single one of us. Don't believe the programming. You own it as a sovereign being.
Yeah, and it's on the inside, and that's isn't that like the cosmic joke? Like it's hidden in plain sight, but we have you running after like the dangling carrot in front of you all the time on the outside instead of going on the inside. I have a crazy story with like parasites when I started with all the parasites. At some point I started doing, and this was in the beginning of my shamanic like birthing process, and I was doing these weird like those sessions in the morning. They took this weird turn, like there was like toning, singing, doing weird breath work, and I looked like a like I'm in a tribe and doing all these weird like ceremonies, but with myself. It was the weirdest thing, but it was powerful. And I did this thing where I talked to the parasites in my body. At the time, I started releasing interesting stuff, and I was like, well, why don't we talk to them then? Let's see what happens. And it was exactly that process, but it happened way quicker than the cyst. It was really weird. It was like, okay, guys, and always in love. And it's like, thank you so much for, being there to do the things that I couldn't do and for serving your purpose. But like right now, it's coming full circle and you can leave. And thank you, but I'm asking you to leave because it's done. And I the next morning I passed tons of stuff. I was like, what the hell is going on here? What is this? But it happened so fast. The cyst happened, like it took time. But yeah, no, like these guys, like anyone can have fun
Anyone,
with it. Have fun with the process.
right?
Be
It's a
strange.
creative process.
It so much is.
Create,
Yes.
create.
Yeah.
I once had some very bizarre spiritual stuff that I won't get into because it's kind of irrelevant, but it was very bizarre spiritual stuff and it was very, very, very uncomfortable. And a woman that I was working with at the time said, well, on some level, not only did you agree to this, but you asked for it.
Yeah.
There's an agreement in everything that happens. You can withdraw your agreement. You can change your mind and you can recreate. And I know this. I've known this for years. I can create whatever it is that I want to create, but the awareness is the
Mm,
key
mm.
because we don't even have really a good, solid understanding of the awareness of what we're creating right now,
Yeah.
let alone how to pivot and create what we want. So I think
Yeah.
it's fantastic if you can. I don't know if you work with other people and you do shaman sessions with other people, but I think that is such a solid place to start. Or
Yeah.
maybe a really qualified, experienced hypnotherapist. It's such a great place to start to understand what programs are running right now
Yeah.
and see if you would like to delete some of those programs and rewrite some other programs that actually work better for your life. Because it is a creative thing. We get to decide what we get to dictate our lives, but people don't even know that it's possible that, we get a say in what happens. We get a say in how this unfolds. We get a say in what our cells do. And without knowing it, we're telling ourselves what to do all the time, every single day. So
Yep.
with that awareness, I think we can really use that to create some cool stuff and be like, wait a minute,
Really.
what? My cells are listening to me? What? Yeah. Your
Yeah.
cells hear everything you think. What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Exactly. Exactly. And first, you got to take accountability and you got to look at yourself in the mirror and you got to go into all those dark places and then have a ball with it, go and heal all that stuff. But then you can take accountability. If you can take accountability for that, then the, the world is your oyster after that and you can create anything.
I think people get overwhelmed with, oh my gosh, I created this. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this to myself. Oh, okay, wait. Yes, you created this. Yes, maybe you did this to yourself, but that also means you get to create something else. The power is always yours. The
Yeah.
power has always existed in you. And I am not going to sit here and pretend that any of this is easy. Anything that you and I have talked about today is not necessarily easy, but I wouldn't be talking about it if I didn't live it. I lived the really, 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 really hard stuff, and I self-punished for many, many years. I I practiced exactly what I didn't want. I was sick and tired, and the more that I focused on being sick and tired, I got sick and tired. And boy, did I get really, I was expert level sick and tired.
Yeah, I feel
But
you.
here's the cool part. That does not have to be a part of my story anymore. Now that I'm aware of what I did to myself, I can take a minute and be like, oh, girl, look what you did. Um, do you want to keep doing that? Or do you want a pattern disruption and do something new?
Yeah.
So I think the other takeaway of this is we have all the power.
Stop giving it up. Like, I mean, yeah.
So how can people find you? What is the best way to find you? Is it social media? Is it email?
How can people? I'm all over social media. I'm a lot on Facebook. So Bianka Rainbow on Facebook. You'll find a lot of stuff there. My website is mentioned there. My Linktree. Then there's TikTok, Instagram, because I do content, this weird little content creation thing because laughter is freaking medicine and I want to share that. So I do full of different stuff. There's like vlogs, there's informative videos, there's ebooks. So I have like 5 ebooks now that are out. I have you can book a session with me either for detox protocols and all the physical aspect, but then there's all the other aspects. So shamanic sessions or, all of that is also there on the website. I would say come see me on Facebook, Bianka Rainbow, and go into my, info section. You'll find everything on there. And I'm always honestly just a message away. I love connecting with people. So come on down and let's chat and you'll get a couple of fist bumps along the way because yeah.
And if people have not seen your content, I can't strongly recommend enough that they go see a lot of your content because, girl, you crack me up. There are so many times I'm like, I need a laugh, and I will go to your page because you have tapped into the very talented ability to just be silly. And I think, my gosh, when we're talking about healing and how frustrating that it can be, we forget. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but I did for many years. I forgot how to laugh. I completely forgot joy. I was
Same.
so in it that I completely lost my sense of humor.
Yeah.
So I can't tell you how much I value a really good sense of humor more than anything in this world. Peace, joy, harmony, and humor are my things because I took myself too seriously for far too long. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of us make when we get some of these devastating diagnoses. I'm not saying that they're not devastating. I'm saying even within those really challenging times, we can still laugh. It's okay.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
actually, we should. We should.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel you. I come from the same place. I had lost that little light too. So yeah, it needs to be shared more. And I mean, just getting a good laugh. And again, there's the physiological aspect of laughing and everything it does to the body.
Yeah.
Give into it more. It's worth it. It feels good. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Thank you
No,
so, so
thank you.
much. And honestly, I think like we have to hop back on a call and we have to hop on a session at some point.
I am thinking the exact same things because I would
Yeah.
actually like to dive into the shamanism a little bit more if we were able to record again. I think it's something that's not talked about a lot, and I think it would be cool for people to understand that a little better.
Yep.
But yeah, I would love to do a session with you. That would be amazing.
I'm absolutely down. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm so happy we connected. It's been a lot, like you said, it's been a long time coming, and I think again it was ripe, and I really appreciate all the little synchronicities like between there's like this flow with you that I so appreciated and I loved this so much. Thank you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. So I hope all of our listeners feel the same. I will definitely include your information and how to find you in the link below. And if anybody watching this has a story that they would like to share, please reach out to me. I would love to have coffee with you.